I'm not really a big fan of reading slides, but let me read this to you. This is from Keith Oatley, Fiction, Simulation of Social Worlds. Okay. Fiction is the simulation of selves in interaction. People who read it improve their understanding of others. This effect is especially marked with literary fiction, which also enables people to change themselves. These effects are due partly to the process of engagement in stories, which includes making inferences and becoming emotionally involved, and partly to the contents of fiction, which include complex characters and circumstances that we might not encounter in daily life. Fiction can be thought of as a form of consciousness of selves and others that can be passed from an author to a reader or spectator and can be internalized to augment everyday cognition, everyday awareness and thinking. Okay. So we're going to talk about this very simple structure that allows us to perform this magic. But before we do, I want to say that young writers, beginning writers, probably waste more time than artists in other areas pushing back against craft. I'm not sure why that is. Some of you, many of you actually, if you've read the introductions from your classmates, you know that many of you are musicians. Okay. Um, the musicians among you appreciate the structure on which music is founded, right? And you understand it doesn't limit you in any way, that an infinite number of wonderful songs can be written in any given chord progression. You appreciate the power of the structure. And you understand that you've become a better musician because you've better understood, you've come to better understand the structure of the music, right? But for some reason, a lot of young writers waste a lot of time trying to write something so different. It's completely 100% original. And that's a waste of time. Okay. Think about this. I could write a song right now, completely original. I could throw away chord progressions, right? I could throw in a wide variety of tempos. And I would create a series of sounds that had never been put together before. Okay. But no one would want to listen to it, right? There'd be nothing pleasing about it, right? So that structure is what allows you to make the connection to others, to share what is uniquely yours. Okay, it's putting the structure through you and having something original come out that's both pleasing and you. Okay. So Lee Smith, great Southern novelist, some of you may have read her work. She said this: all you have to do to write a story is to know what a normal day is like for a cast of characters and then write about an abnormal day. That's simple enough. And that is kind of what moves us for certain in a three-act structure from act one to act two. If you think about one of your favorite films, okay, you can think about it right now. It doesn't have to be your most favorite movie, just whatever comes to mind, right? And for most of you, whatever you're thinking went something like this. In the first 10 or 15 minutes, we were introduced to a normal day. Now, that's a normal day in the world of the protagonist, the main character. Okay. It might have been a normal day in Victorian England. It might be a normal day in a galaxy, in a planet across the galaxy in the future. Okay. But for whatever the world of the story is, we're introduced to a normal day. We start to see some of the characters that are going to be involved in the story. But then, about 10 or 15 minutes into this film you're thinking about, something changed. Trouble arrived. Okay. And that's the beginning of the second act. The second act is the main part of any three-act story. Okay. This is a wonderful way to think about story. It's often misattributed to Nabokov, but it's a really nice way to think about story. In the first act, get your principal character up a tree. Okay. In the second act, throw stones at him. In the third act, get him down gracefully. Okay, or not so gracefully. It's up to you. But it's that that stone throwing, stone. Anyway, it's the stone throwing that is your primary job as a writer of fiction, right? Because we want to put these characters under stress, right? If you've created sympathetic characters that we can relate to and connect with, and you put them under stress, all of a sudden you're putting us under stress, right? And that's your job, okay? The heavier the stones, the more the stones, the better. Okay, it's what creates this ebb and flow of stories. Oh, that stone hit our protagonist. Oh, but it looks like the protagonist is going to be all right. Ooh, there's another stone. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to write a story. All right. So if you haven't gotten your paper and pen or pencil ready, go ahead and pause the video and do that. All right. So you're going to be jotting down a lot of ideas right now. All right. So before we even get started jotting down some potential ideas, I want to talk to you about something very important, and that is I really want to warn you away from perfectionism. I don't know that anything has stopped more creative projects from coming to fruition than perfectionism. It's deadly. Okay, you have to fight it. Along those lines, I want to tell you two things Ernest Hemingway said. Ernest Hemingway, great writer of the 20th century. Two things he said about first drafts. Excuse his language, but the first thing he said is the first draft of anything is shit. It's bad, right? But that's fine. Okay. Second thing he said was the first draft must be written because the first draft is so important. Before the first draft, you have all these potential germs and ideas running around, and that you're having to keep them straight in your head, right? But that first draft gives you some freedom. You start to get these ideas down on paper, and you don't have to cling to them and have them adhere in your mind. You're getting them on paper. They're really so much closer to coming together in a nice polished piece once you get them on paper. Okay, the analogy of creating a beautiful ceramic piece is very nice here, but the first draft is nothing but getting the raw clay on the wheel. And once you get the clay on the wheel, then now you get to work with it and shape it and make something absolutely beautiful and astonishing. Okay, but you don't have to worry about the clay being beautiful as soon as it hits the wheel. Okay. One of the things that happens a lot of times for beginning writers is they see words as precious. Oh, I've written something so, and it's astonishing. You're like, wow, that came out of nothing, and now it's there. That's beautiful and magic, and it is, but it's not precious. All right, and professional writers have to get used to throwing away hundreds and thousands of words at a time, right? So imagine if that potter we talked about thought all clay was precious, right? Oh, I've got to preserve all the clay I've touched during this project. Well, that would be a disaster, right? So I really want you to be on the lookout and guard against perfectionism, okay? So we're going to run through some potential normal day scenarios. We're going to give you several scenarios you'll be able to choose from as you do this exercise. Okay, so have fun with it. Jot down whatever ideas come to mind. Okay, so here's the first possible normal day scenario. I want you to think about someone being picked up by a family member at an airport. Okay, airports are wonderful places to people watch, right? You see all kinds of energies unfolding there. Okay, how long have the two been apart? What are they wearing? Are there any gifts exchanged? Okay, so I want you to think about Anything that comes to mind, any detail you can think of, anything you can see in your mind's eye related to this very simple scenario of one family member picking up another at an airport. Go ahead and pause the video and continue when you are ready to move on. Okay.